My name is Naomi DeWinter. I'm the president of Muscatine Community College, and I'm here tonight with Brin Ritter, who is the Director of Nahant Marsh. Welcome to Muscatine, Brin.
Thank you.
I know you've spent some time here as an instructor, and you've presented in our community before.
It's great to be back. I love coming to Muscatine.
So we want to talk tonight a little bit about the Nahant Marsh, which is a wonderful resource just within a short drive from here, the kind of programs that you offer there. As we were preparing to talk tonight, I met a lot of people who have an interest in this, and so I'm sure that what you will be able to share will be immediately employed here in the Muscatine community.
Fantastic.
So what would you like people to know about Nahant Marsh?
Well, Nahant Marsh is unique in that it's a wetland that's still surviving in an urban area. It's a 305-acre nature preserve. It's home to a lot of different species. We've documented 512 different kinds of plants there, 182 different kinds of birds, 40 plus different mammals, about 25 different reptiles and amphibians. So it's a really diverse place, but it's in an urban area, which makes it unique. It's, as I mentioned, 305 acres. We have about 2 miles worth of hiking trails there, open to the public. We have a bird blind, a dock, all kinds of neat features to check out. And we have a very active education center. We serve about 20,000 people per year with our programs. And so we have a variety of programs from for folks of all ages. We have a Toddler Tales program and that meets once a month, and that serves toddler-age kids, and their parents come and they learn a little bit about nature and have fun in the process. We have a Master Conservationist program. It's similar to Master Gardeners, and essentially we teach people about the ecology of Iowa, the environmental issues that are here in Iowa, and look at solutions too. It's not just the bad, it's all the good and everything in between. We also have a variety of homeschool programs, K through 12 field trips, colleges. EICC is a partner there, so we have some conservation classes that meet there on site. Also, St. Ambrose and Western Illinois University are involved there, so they're doing research on site as well. So a lot of great, unique things happening, and we're just 25 minutes up the road from Muscatine here, so right inside Davenport's borders, right next to the 280 bridge and the Mississippi River is where we're located.
And you were telling me about the Monarch release event coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, so this Saturday, September 15th, we have a Monarch release. We'll be releasing about 200 Monarch butterflies, and along with that, we'll be tagging them so the kids can tag those monarchs, and then they can track that monarch to see how far it made it. It's part of an initiative from Monarch Watch. We'll have lots of arts and craft activities for kids, and it's all free. So great way to spend a Saturday, and it's going to be beautiful this weekend. So, and on top of that, we have a variety of other activities. People can get involved with our cleanup events that occur down there. We always need volunteers. We're right on the Mississippi, so sometimes when it floods, like it is now, we get some trash and debris, and we always need extra hands to make a difference. But it's a fantastic place. It's a jewel of our area, and it's something worth checking out.
Mm-hmm. I was talking with a colleague of both of ours this morning, and he told me that not too long ago we had about 2,500 visitors to Nahant Marsh, and that's
Right.
now increased almost tenfold practically
Right.
since the time that you've been here. So I think those different programs that you talked about, just different types of people who are interested, in something that you offer is really evidenced by those numbers.
Yeah, programs and partnerships. I mean, we couldn't do it without our partners like EICC and City of Davenport, and AmeriCorps is a big partner of ours, and so all of those have allowed us to grow and kind of build it and they'll come type of thing. We built a good program, and I think people responded. So.
Yeah, good. So let me ask you for some more information about what we can plant in our own backyards here in this area
Sure.
of Iowa to attract birds, so that we can, be out in the nature and enjoy those beautiful creatures.
Yeah, so I always tell people to work with what you have. So if you have a shady yard, you shouldn't go and cut down all your trees to plant the prairie. You should work with what you have. And so that involves exploring your property and even sometimes looking back. And there's some great resources. If you just Google Iowa Geographic Map Server, you can look back at aerial photos all the way to the 1930s on your property if you're in Iowa. And on top of that, there's even old survey maps that were done in the 1830s. So you can look and see, well, my property was a prairie at one time, or it was a forest or whatever. And so that can serve as a guide. So birds and wildlife in general need food, water, shelter, and space. So if you can provide those, you'll generally attract them. So if you have kind of a shady yard, we generally recommend planting trees and shrubs that would historically been found in our woodlands here in Iowa. So that would include things like serviceberry, which is a wonderful native shrub. It has delicious fruit on it as well, if you can beat the birds to it. So, and what we like to see is stuff that is going to fruit or produce nuts or seeds all through the season. So serviceberry is one of the earliest ones. It produces its fruit in early June. And then, things like aronia berry, which have really caught on in Iowa. This is not the best tasting fruit raw, but it is really nutritious, so for us humans, but also aronia berry produces lots of fruit in a short amount of time, and it holds its fruit generally throughout the winter. So aronia berry, serviceberry, hawthorn trees and shrubs, which also produce a native fruit and has thorns on it, which are actually good for the birds because it's a safe place for them to nest, keeps the predators away and things like that. And then there's a whole slew of nut-producing trees and shrubs. Hazelnuts are kind of a favorite of ours. It's a small, low-growing shrub that kind of spreads, and you can use it to form a nice border fence type of thing, but also produces abundant nuts that squirrels and certain birds alike like to use. So, on top of that, we like to use things like, we like to encourage things like oaks. Now, the forester told me once the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time to plant a tree is now. So unfortunately, some of these things grow slowly, but especially oaks have such a wide variety of wildlife benefits. There's a ton of different insect species that use oaks. There's a large variety of different birds that use oaks, and the list goes on and on. Oaks are incredibly valuable. They're native to our area, and unfortunately, we got into the habit of planting fast-growing trees like ash trees, and we know what's happening to our ash trees with emerald ash borer. So as those trees die out and we replace them, it's good to consider things that produce fruits or nuts as a wildlife source and a source of beauty and other things for our landscape. Hackberry is another good replacement for the ash trees. Hackberry is very adaptable. It does produce a little fruit and is attractive to birds and other things.
So you've given us a couple of ideas with the berries and the nuts. Is the strategy to have a variety of those, or?
Yeah, so diversity is better. Diversity leads to diversity. If you have a diverse landscape, you're generally going to have more of a diversity of things like butterflies and moths and other things, and that in turn will attract more birds. So we like to promote as much diversity as possible. Now, one figure to consider is that in the United States, we have 40 million acres of lawn. So 40 million acres of lawn that provides virtually no habitat whatsoever for things like birds. So if all of us just converted 10% of our lawn to a little prairie or a little patch of native shrubs or something like that, that's 4 million new acres of habitat that we don't currently have. So that'd be pretty remarkable. Great opportunities for our wildlife. So the trees and shrubs are great in a shady area, or if you want to create like a woodland type setting. If you have a nice sunny open lawn, prairie is a wonderful alternative to lawn. And even if you just plant some random species of prairie plants, they can provide a lot of benefits. Coneflower, for instance, is a beautiful native wildflower, but the seeds are kind of a choice food for things like goldfinches. So, you know, having those species coneflowers are going to draw in your goldfinches and things like that. So, you know, there's a whole science behind planting prairie, and we don't recommend going full bore and planting your whole lawn in prairie, but putting a little strip with some things like milkweed and coneflowers and other things like that, and a few clumps of native grasses can have real benefit, because not only do they provide food, but they provide shelter for those types of species.
So I'm remembering something I read about milkweed and monarchs. Isn't there a connection there?
Big time.
Yeah.
So, you know, our monarch populations, the estimate is that somewhere around 80 to 90%, we've seen a decrease of 80 to 90% of our monarchs in just a short period of time since the year 2000. So that's pretty startling. I remember as a kid in Iowa, monarchs were everywhere. I mean, it was just a commonplace thing, and now they're starting to become fairly rare. So there's major point of concern, and there's probably a variety of factors that are causing that. Milkweed, the disappearance of milkweed on our landscape is one of those. Our hedgerows and our road ditches and things like that used to host a lot of those plants are gone now, just because of modern agriculture, or, you know, we keep our ditches too clean or whatever. So planting a little bit of milkweed in some odd places is definitely beneficial, not only to monarch butterflies, but a whole host of other insect species that depend on milkweeds. And so there's actually about 8 milkweed species that are native to Iowa, and some of them are really just gorgeous flowering plants. So butterfly milkweed, for instance, has beautiful orange flowers. It's a great plant if you have a drier, kind of sunnier yard. There's swamp milkweed, which has beautiful pink flowers that kind of smell almost like bubble gum. So that's another great alternative if you have a slightly wetter yard, or a wet swale in your yard or something like that. So variety of those, and they're all beneficial to monarchs. On top of that, monarchs, so the caterpillar need the milkweeds. They cannot survive without milkweed. But the adults will feed on a variety of nectaring plants, and so a lot of good natives that you can use, coneflowers, things like that. And you can even use some typical garden plants like zinnias. Zinnias, even though they're not native, they don't pose a risk to become invasive. And that's one of the things we get concerned about is some of these trees and shrubs and flowers and things that we put in our gardens inadvertently escape and then wreak havoc on our woodlands and prairies and things like that. So one example of that, by the way, is burning bush, which we still see widely used. And granted, it is a beautiful bush and shrub, but it is now spreading rampantly in our woodlands and choking out a lot of native plants. So using those native shrubs, using native flowers, or at least doing your homework and ensuring that things are not going to become invasive is kind of a good idea.
Planting some of these and
Yeah, so with prairie, if you're going to plant prairie seeds, most prairie seeds need to go through a cold period called stratification before they'll germinate. And so we tend to like to do a frost seeding or even seed right before it snows. So we prepare the ground now. In the fall is the best time to be preparing your ground for seeding, and that involves removing any sod or any other weeds that are present. And then come winter, usually before a snow, we'll go out and scatter the seed. You don't have to plow it in or anything. It really actually just needs soil contact. And it can sit right on top. And if it snows on top of it, that's wonderful because the snow kind of helps work the seed in, but it also protects it so that critters don't come and eat up all your seed. And then come spring, it'll bloom. In terms of trees and shrubs, it's generally best to plant them in the spring, but fall is a fine time too, as long as you can get them in the next couple weeks. If you wait too long, the roots might not take, and then it's hard on them in the winter.
Are there other native to Iowa or native to this region that we should be considering, or that you?
Yeah, I mean, one tree that I find pretty fantastic is called the Paw Paw Tree. Paw Paws are native to especially southern Iowa, but as far north as Dubuque. Paw Paw fruits are one of the largest native fruits that we have, and they're considered a survival food. If you've ever read about Lewis and Clark, on the last leg of their journey, they ran out of food, and luckily they found a Paw Paw patch, and the Paw Paws kept them alive for a couple weeks before they could get some more rations. So Paw Paws are great in terms of human use, but all kinds of wildlife loves them. They're high in protein, fat, and carbohydrates, and unique tasting fruit. And so turkeys and blue jays and skunks, raccoons, possums, deer, everything seems to love Paw Paws. And they're a beautiful looking tree too. They kind of turn a golden yellow color in the fall. They have a nice pyramid type shape. So really a nice landscape yard type tree as well. So if I were going to plant some shrubs, that'd be the one I would recommend. Such a useful and versatile plant. Mm-hmm. And there's some unique insects like the zebra swallowtail butterfly that uses those as a host plant. So the tertiary benefit there too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a little bit of a superfood.
Yeah.
Too, the way you describe it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good. Okay, well that was really super informative. We learned about the Nahant Marsh. Again, just a short drive from Muscatine. There's more information on our website, EICC website. Don't forget the Monarch release day coming up on Saturday. And also information about how to modify your own backyard to attract birds and other types of nature, what's native to Iowa, and really start to kind of take control of your own area. I thought that was interesting, the 40 million acres of lawn, that serves the purpose of, being green basically, but doesn't serve any other purpose. And all the other examples you mentioned are really purposeful to humans and to other species. So really interesting information. Thank you, Brian, for joining us here in Muscatine. Thank you for watching the show, and we'll see you again next time.